Hey, welcome to another episode of Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast number 103. We'll be starting here shortly. Paco, I don't know if there is a chat room. You can get it on the podnutz.com/live page too. I wanted to let you know that. I forgot to tell you before if you want to see what's going on in the chat room.
Sure. On right now.
I haven't installed IRC on this laptop.
Which like we are good. All right. All right. Close out of that. And actually, we can close that. All right, this is our pre-show right before we get started. And we're going to start here shortly. Let's see. We got Paco in the chat room. We got Marvin's in the chat room, looks like. We got a lot of other people in there. I don't know if they were in there before. Oh, look, Chris on his phone. In the car. That's his stick anymore. That's what he does. I'm going to do whatever it takes with my gunner glasses and everything.
That's right.
You look good, man.
Thanks. I like them. They fit my head really well.
They look like you're going to the shooting range or something.
Well, maybe that's where it came from. You don't know that.
Wait, you said you didn't have a license.
Well, that doesn't stop me from shooting. It is a little bit too cold to be skeet shooting right now, though.
That's true. You know, I was just saying to myself, I went and this room gets a little hot. It's a little 10 by 10 office, and so I opened up the window, and I really love this time of year because you get that nice little cool breeze coming in, and it just makes it nice. You're not sitting here sweating, having the air conditioning pushing on you the whole time. What were you gonna say,
Chris? What they need? Oh, you know what they need?
What's that?
They need a tablet mount for steering wheels. That's what they need.
There you go. There you go. I'm in for that.
I can't think of anything that would be more illegal than that, but that's.
What? Well, you could put one of those, you know, with the speedometers and stuff on there that, you know, kind of like the one you would have on your windshield, you know, show you the speed and all that, but you'd have it right on your steering wheel. Yeah, I'm just
See, they want to get rid of those too, though.
Do they really?
Yeah, because they did a bunch of studies, and it turns out that it's actually horribly distracting to have the heads-up display on a car, and it's dangerous.
I'm going to tell you. I love the Microsoft Sync in my car, but if that thing is not distracting, I don't know what is, dude. Because I'm looking at my phone or the radio controls, or the only thing I use on the steering wheel is maybe the volume button and maybe a skip forward or backward. But most of the time, I got to look at my phone. I mean, it's just you answer a phone call, it's just ridiculous.
See, you haven't done it right then, because I've got like the little answer phone and hang up phone button, and then the little voice activation thing right above it. And then you got everything's right there. So what are you talking about? You keep on looking at your phone.
Well, because I listen to podcasts, so I don't sit there and I don't usually listen to music and stuff like that. So yeah, I do use a phone button if somebody calls me or I'm going to call something. Not so much if I'm going to call somebody else, because then I look at my phone. There are
that's
times
what the voice activation thing is for, though.
I know, and it's fine as long as when you're saying call Marvin B, and it doesn't say call Slarvin C, or whatever. I mean, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I hate.
Clearly, the problem is that you're not enunciating properly.
Yes. Now, I will tell you, it works perfectly for my wife, which is the only thing I really care about. So, my wife's name. And it calls her automatically, no problem. So
Perfect.
Other than that, I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Jeff, because I'll go ahead and have a call, and obviously you got the hands on the steering wheel, you can pick up the calls or whatever. I'm hitting the touchscreen on the actual in-dash GPS unit, and I'm like, so, and it's just programmed that way.
Yep. Yeah. I got to get out of that. Yeah. Use those buttons on the steering wheel. But when the podcast stops and I go to look at something on my phone, I'm like, okay. All right, so here we go. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Ready to put this podcast to bed? All right, here we go. Welcome to Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 103. I am Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have Chris Carruthers from Remote Support Tech Team. How you doing, Chris?
Pretty good, Jeff. How are you today?
Oh, man, I thought we lost you for a second. I was just, wow, no way. I'm like, he's frozen. So tell us where you're at, Chris.
I am in the driveway because my headset stopped working and the Wi-Fi sucks in my office, so I have to use my phone and laptop to do the call today.
But I'll tell you what, it looks like it's working pretty good.
No way. It was working fine.
It looks like it's working
It was working 100% fine the entire time, so we're going to keep it that way as long as you don't touch anything.
I'm not. He's up here. He's up here. All right. And also joining us today, we have Paco Lebron from ProdigyText.com. How you doing, Paco?
I'm good, Jeff. I'm good.
Good. Good. And where are you located?
Chicago, Illinois. So it's all kinds of range of weather over here. So.
Well, you and I are just across the lake from each other. So, yeah, I like this time of year. It's fall. It's a little cooler. I get that nice little breeze. I can open a window. So it's kind of cool.
Well, when it snows on Halloween, that's kind of when I kind of draw the line on that part of it. So,
Yeah, that's true. Hey, somebody just asked if the live feed was up, and I just checked it. It was up just a second ago. Let me double check.
That's okay. He answered his own question.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is. Okay. This is what we get from the chat room. All right. Have you tried turning it on again, or tried turning it off and on again?
Are the lights on?
Oh, troubleshooting 101, right?
That'll be our next service. All it's going to be is a recording that says, "Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?" That'll be the first thing that they get.
That's
if
right.
they hang up, we only charge them $5. Problem solved.
Oh, what a great service. Oh, man. All right, so I think today we're going to talk about, Paco came up with I'm sure we'll go on many different subjects, but Paco brought up a neat subject that I think is a good subject to talk about. We're going to talk about today is what happens, or what do you do when you make a mistake on a customer's computer? Or you tell them something and it doesn't work out exactly right, or whatever. You know, what types of steps do you do to make it right? Because obviously, here's the way it is. If you do something and you're not honest about it and you try to hide it, in my opinion, that's just going to come back to haunt you. You know, you get what you give. And so we want to be upfront and honest with people, and we want to help people. You know, we're human, so we make mistakes. But we just want to be honest with people and say, hey, I made this mistake, and here's how I'm going to fix it. So, hey, Paco, we'll let you start off, and kind of what were you thinking when you came up with that subject?
Sure. It actually was probably last week sometime. Had a client, gave us a call, sent them over to the office, dropped off the PC. Computer couldn't turn on. So originally what we figured was, he says, hey, I think it might be the power supply. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So sure, no problem. So I go ahead, I grab my power supply tester, which is, $20 Ultra, plug in the port, see all the lights are on, you should be good to go. Plug it in, everything comes up green. Power supply is good, man. You got a motherboard problem. So it's going to be X amount for the motherboard. This is how much we charge for the service, et cetera, move on. They agree. Replace the motherboard. Still doesn't turn on. So as I go ahead and try and figure out, okay, maybe it's memory, etc. As we're going down the line, turns out it was the power supply. Because of the way it was plugged in, once it's powered on, it dissipates the power all the way through. So turns out that it needed a new power supply, because even though when I tested it, it came on all green, turned out that once you plug it in the motherboard, it loses the power altogether. Replace the power supply, was good to go. Now, the reason why this was an issue was because my rates are not the same for specific repairs. So when we spoke with the client, we mentioned to them it would be X amount of dollars for a power supply repair, X amount of dollars for replacing the motherboard. And what ended up happening was, as you mentioned, you realize you made a mistake on the diagnosis. So it's a little bit higher of a charge for that motherboard. And indeed, if he was paying attention, and I know he was paying attention because he looked at the back of the computer and he saw the LED was flashing, and that LED was a completely different LED and the new power supply. So rather than risking, bad publicity for the company and just going down for more referrals that he's may have possibly can given us, or bad mouthing it per se, I went ahead and gave him a call, just let him know what the mistake was, and basically gave him that partial of the refund. And the reason why I did that was because, as you mentioned, if he would have found out down the line as far as that repair didn't go as how we quoted it, our credibility drops. And basically, if you lose credibility of a tech, and especially depending on what area you're in, if you're in a rural area and you're kind of the one-man shop in your area, that one bad issue that occurred is going to haunt you going down the line. So that's what ended up happening. But a lot of technicians, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up for the show is because a lot of technicians are going to think, well, if I tell them I messed up or I made that bad diagnosis, I look like I'm just an amateur. I'm not good at my trade, etc., no matter how long I've been in business. And that's kind of where you have to kind of step back, take a look at the situation, and figure out how to address the situation, or basically let the customer know, and eating crow at the same time without making it look like, hey, it was an honest mistake and this is what's going on. More than likely, the customer's going to understand. And they're eventually going to basically be on your side, and they'll appreciate that you gave them the truth and you gave them that partial refund. But I know that there's a lot of beginning technicians where if they do use that funds for other reasons and they can't make that partial refund, what do they do then? So that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up, see what other people had to say as far as in that type of scenario where you do make a bad diagnosis or a mistake. What do you do as far as the customer to make sure that you make that situation good and happy for everybody on both sides?
And let me, okay, so there's a couple things. First of all, that's a good practice. Number one, I think it's when you can charge a customer less than what you originally quoted them, in most customers' minds, that's going to be a good thing. Number two is that, and I'm sure most techs know this, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it for those that don't. Those power supply testers are a good first line of defense. They will check all the different rails on that power supply if you plug in all the different leads, but they're not 100%. Right. And a lot of times you will still have a bad power supply even though you can't see the problem. So if everything's still not working, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll swap out the power supply real quick and just see. I'll just plug everything in. I'll leave it sitting outside the case or whatever, and make sure that if it corrects the problem, then I know, okay, this power supply is actually bad. But coming back to the point of doing the right thing, again, I don't know everything, so I'm coming from a standpoint of I'm doing the best I can, and if I make a bad diagnosis, these are computers, these are electronics, they're not 100%. It's not like any type of troubleshooting you do, they're not 100%. Even when you're trying to figure out an automobile or whatever, there's things that you don't see that will kind of mess you up or lead you in the wrong direction. So I think it's most important to come back to the customer, just be honest. Hey, I made a bad diagnosis. Here's what it actually is. Here's the price. Here's your money back on that portion of it. And that's in my opinion, that's the only way to do business.
Right.
What do you think, Chris?
Well, I don't make mistakes, so that's not really a thing.
Then that's why I have him on this show. Except he's sitting in the car on his cell phone.
Hey,
whatever.
But this isn't a mistake. Okay, this is a solution. See, I don't make mistakes. I give solutions.
There you go.
No, we've all done it, right? Where it's like, oh, well, this looks like it's this part, and we're going to replace this part, and here's how much it is, and then you go in, and it's like, oh, the hard drive never got tested before I quoted that. Like when I first got started out, that was a big problem for me. I didn't test out the hard drive. I fixed that pretty quick, but I had a couple of jobs go bad on it. And you don't charge them. It depends. If you made a mistake and it caused more labor, absolutely. If you're troubleshooting something like a software problem and it's like, okay, well, all of these error messages are coming up and this is what the error messages are telling me, and you tested the hardware and the hardware's fine, and then it turned out that it was a different piece of software that was affecting this piece of software which caused this error, I'm going to charge for that support, right? Because that's normal troubleshooting. That's where you're going in. Something like what you're talking about with that power supply, though, I completely agree with you. You made the right call. And for those new technicians starting out, don't take a job that you can't cover the full cost of on your own in case you have to refund the customer. Plain and simple.
Yeah,
right.
true.
If you're going in and you're saying, I'm going to replace this motherboard and I'm going to put in all of this time on it, there is always a possibility, if you haven't already taken payment from the customer, that the customer is going to not pay you when you're done. So you need to have the money to be able to pay for those parts in the first place before you even worry about whether or not you're going to get paid from the customer. So that shouldn't become a problem for anybody as long as you're keeping yourself, with that bit of money in your savings account, you're keeping yourself afloat, and you're not just putting yourself into debt just to do that job.
Oh, those are great and valid points. You're exactly right. Yeah, you definitely want to be, I can't tell you how many, and a lot of times they're not real expensive parts, but how many times I've bought a part that, because I was just going through my diagnosis. Hey, is it the inverter for the screen? No, it's not that. No, is it the power switch? And you look at these different things, and then you get down to the point where you go, it's very hard to really thoroughly check a motherboard, especially at the PCB level. So a lot of times you just go, hey, I was wrong. The motherboard's bad. They're not going to want to replace it, so I just ate $20 in parts. So be it. It happens. I'm not going to sit there and try to put it in the customer's, try to put that in the customer's hands. Well, I bought these parts, so you got to pay for them. But at the same time, if they don't want to replace the motherboard, they don't fix the machine, I'm going to move them into a direction of, okay, if you're going to get a new laptop or you're going to get a new desktop or whatever, we can purchase you one, or you can go purchase one yourself, bring it to me, I'm going to set it up for you, I'm going to move your data over. So I'm going to turn it into a job anyways, where I'm still getting paid for doing what I do. And that's the way I look at it. Yeah, I lost $20 here, but I'm going to make 75 back on that, no big deal. So I don't really lose any money. Now sometimes if the person just goes, I don't want to fix it, I'm not doing nothing, they walk away, give them their laptop or whatever back, hey, okay, we're good. And you throw it in and you write it off on your taxes. I mean, simple.
Yeah, and I mean, the last repair that I did was pretty much one of those things where the situations wound up being that I can't charge for the repair, right? I had a computer come in, hard drive was bad, tested it. Yeah, your hard drive is bad, it needs to be replaced, but OS was still bootable. So we'll get the new hard drive, we'll clone it over, we'll stick the drive in there, everything's good to go, and then it turns out that the sticker that I didn't really look at because, why, was an XP sticker, and it was running Windows 7 on the computer. So, asked the guy, okay, can I get your upgrade disk and your upgrade key because you didn't include it in there? Oh, well, I don't have those. Well, why not? Where did you get your Windows 7 upgrade, right? This guy's not smart enough to torrent, I'm sorry, but he's not. Oh, well, some kid fixed my computer a couple of years ago and it came back like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I mean, now we're looking at, buying a new Windows 7 key because you want to use Windows 7 Pro in a business environment and it's pirated. So on top of the hard drive that I already bought and had shipped in, we're also going to have to pay for this and the repair was going to be like $400 and something by the time everything was said and done. And he chose to just buy a new computer. Right? Now, I mean, so, I made, what, $80 on the sale of the computer, so it's not like I'm out that much money, but I'm out all the time that I put into the computer, plus the hard drive that I wound up getting for him was a 1 terabyte Western Digital Black. So that's like, a little bit more than the $80 I made. Well, that's fine. I have the money to cover that, right? So what am I going to do now? I ordered a 3-pack of the refurbisher licenses for Windows 7 Home. They're on its way. I've already got the hard drive. I'm just going to slap the sticker on there, install it, and go. Right? Like there's, you have to make up for those types of things. You have to have the money set aside for it. And when everything's said and done, I should come out even or better on this entire transaction because now I've got a computer to sell.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If you think about what the hills and valleys of this business, I mean, sometimes, man, you get a computer in and you just fly through it and you're doing a virus removal and it's just so easy and everything goes your way and you don't get any blue screens and you bring it back to the customer and they love it and it's, you spent 20 minutes on it and you just made $120 or whatever and you're good to go. And then there's those other times where you're trying to figure out a problem and you can't figure out, you've gone through all the steps, and even what Chris was saying before, I used to do this all the time, and I would kick myself because I go through this whole virus removal process. I would remove, try to remove all the, problems. I would try to fix Windows, and then I realized I never checked the hard drive. And because I didn't check the hard drive, now I'm going, okay, now I just spent all that time, 2, 3, 4 hours or whatever, trying to figure out the problem. Now I've got to tell them, I've got to go back to them, hey, it's going to be more than what I said. It's not going to be a virus removal now. Now it's a hard drive replacement, backing up data, yada, yada, yada. So all these things that you do, now from those situations, I did learn that the first thing I do when I run my tools is it checks the smart data and does a crystal disk info, just to check the consistency of the hard drive, just to give me an idea where I'm at. If I, and a lot of times I've told people this before too. There are even times when I'm booting a machine up, your Dells, your HPs, or whatever. A lot of your newer laptops, a lot of your laptops, even within the last 3 or 4 years, if you boot it up, hit your F8 key, it'll go into a menu. There's a diagnostic tools that come with almost all these. I hit the little button, start diagnostics. I let it check the hard drive, the memory, and all this other stuff. And then when it comes back 20 minutes later and says, hey, I'm good, then I can go in and actually look at what the problem is, if it's a software issue or whatever. And I've just saved myself a bunch of time by doing that up front.
To kind of key off of that too, I just now started doing that check as well with the hard drive, because perfect example, we went ahead and took in a desktop that had, I forgot what it was. It was something, I think it was a virus removal or something of that nature. Removed the virus, got rid of everything. Everything was good to go. Sent it back to the customer. He was all right. All of a sudden, he sends it back, or he calls us and lets us know, hey, when I'm trying to upload, because he was a construction company, I try to upload some photos to the server and the computer just shuts off. It's like, oh, that's weird. So I assumed, all right, there was something wrong with the OS or whatever. As I get it back, the computer just stays loading into the Vista screen. I finally, so my mistake was when I first got it, instead of doing the upfront hardware checks, I didn't. I did the hardware checks, hard drive was failing. One of his chips had a huge memory leak. So it ended up where he was okay with it. I actually ended up, because it was my bad for that diagnostic as far as the hard drive was concerned for that virus removal, I replaced the hard drive for free of charge. But I did let him know about the memory leak of that was going on with that one chip where, hey, we can pull it or we can replace it. And we're going to go ahead and try and clone this disk. Well, the hard drive was so bad with redundancy checks that I had to just completely hopefully back up all his data off of the hard drive with transferring over with RT Studios, and grab the data off of it. Well, that was like a 2-day process. Then I was able to reinstall the OS, put it back on, and go from there. He was more concerned about trying to get it into the same state, but even CloneZilla failed from disk to disk or doing that image, so the hard drive was pretty much just shot altogether. But if I would have detected it up front, I probably could have let him know, hey, this is what's going on, and that would have been that converting into, hey, look, this is what we can do for you from there. And that's one of the things that I've just started to learn now, is not taking that loss, but like Kristen, you had went ahead and touched on, converting it into a better situation for both not only you, but for the customer as well.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that winds up determining, I mean, here's the thing, right? Owning a computer repair business and doing all of this, you're not just a tech anymore, right? If you want to just be a tech, don't own the business, sit in the back.
Right.
So you have to deal with the customer service end of it. You have to deal with the sales end of it, which is a huge problem for a lot of technicians, getting that sales in. And then you have to deal with situations like this where not only do you have to find the good customer service thing to do, but then you have to figure out how to recoup it for yourself. And you're not always going to be able to. You're not, every single situation isn't going to have a nice sunny walkway for you to go down at the end of it. There's going to be some times where you're going to lose, and I mean the thousands easily if you screw up. A bad hard drive, and you go through and you wind up doing all of this work on the hard drive, and then you crash something and all their data's gone, and you didn't bother taking a backup before you started, right? I mean, yeah, you can have them sign whatever you want saying that you're not responsible for that data, but take that to court, you got to fight, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you could wind up losing a lot of money if you don't prepare yourself and set those expectations. And a lot of new technicians don't. They just flat out don't. And that's a huge problem in the industry. And we watch these doors closing all the time, all these new technicians coming in, and they wind up going out of business. And it's not because they're not a good tech. It's just because they're not running the business. Right. And it's important to keep on that.
Well, it's a learning process. So, It would be nice to be able to just, come into a business, know every bit of, every part of that business and be able to do your day-to-day business. But the reality is, a lot of things we learn from hard knocks, and we learn from, making those mistakes. Or if you're paying attention in the industry, you listen to shows like this and you learn from other people's mistakes, so you don't make those mistakes. And so you can avoid some of the problems that we've come across. It's just one of those things where you try to do the best you can, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to pay for some things, but that's okay. You move on. But coming back to the thing with the contracts and stuff like that, a lot of times people will say, well, do I have to read this whole contract? And I go, no. It basically, I said, it's giving me permission to work on your machine, and it's just saying that if something happens that's out of my control, I'm not held responsible. And I've never had I don't care. I just need to work on. And they sign it, and they go on from there. So, but I will tell you this. One of the things I'm going to start doing is what I've noticed is with like Clonezilla, Cronus, and some of these different, imaging pieces of software, is if there's a corruption on a disk, it'll stop, and it won't image the disk. So I learned of a program. There's a couple of different ones, but I started playing around with FTK Imager, and I'm going to use that Imager program because all it does is captures the raw data, good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't care. It makes a complete image of the bad hard drive, and then you can take that, move it to something else, and then see if you can get your stuff back from there. Do your restores. I think it will even work. I haven't tested this out yet. I think if there's a recovery partition on there and it's not affected, I think you might even be able to do a system restore once that image is moved over. So that's something I'm going to be playing with here in the next couple months.
Cool.
So as far as the FTK Imager, that when you say restore the data, does it allow for kind of like how it takes the image with like a Cronus, Clonezilla, etc.? Does FTK Imager, if you fix those bad corrupted parts, would you be able to technically clone that back on and restore the environment, or are we just focusing on just grabbing the data off of that hard drive for the consumer to have?
For me, the biggest thing is if there's a bad enough issue with the hard drive, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make an image. I'm going to back up I'm more concerned about their data.
Got it.
If they have to replace the hard drive or whatever because if they don't have a backup of their stuff, I'm going to replace the hard drive. I'm going to reinstall the operating system, but I want to get them their data back. Now, I understand there's certain customers out there that want their computer left in the same state that they brought it in, which most of the time is a complete and utter mess. I'll just say that. Hopefully none of my customers. But the reality is, I'm going to clean it up. And there's sometimes I'll take, and some people will disagree with this. There are shortcuts and different things that are left on the desktop that are redundant from what's down in the taskbar. And there's a lot of times where I clean that stuff up off the desktop. Now some people go, oh no, you don't touch anybody's stuff, and I'm like going, I have not had one customer complain to me yet. I clean it up, they get it back, it works right, and they're like going, as long as they can get to the programs that they need to get to, and they can get online, most of the time that's really what they want. As long as they can get online, they're golden. Everything else is just stuff they've downloaded, stuff they've installed, but they don't know why HP printer put 14 different icons on their desktop, nor could they care less.
So, they all do something important, Jeff. That's why we have them there.
Yeah, the scanning and the ordering of the ink and the registration and the really HP? Come on.
Well, yeah. If you don't order ink, then how are you going to put ink in your printer?
So I do agree with you on that part as far as cleaning up the desktop of the not necessary icons that that the consumer is not going to use. But as far as, like, for example, any of the Office suites, antivirus, etc., although they may be redundant, I've actually had this happen to me twice, so that's why I ended up just leaving it as is. I'll get rid of, like you mentioned, Epson, HP, whatever. But if
Right.
there are two sets of icons that are on the desktop and then on the actual taskbar, I will go ahead and leave it because I don't know which one the clients will want to use. And I actually service a lot of senior citizens where they want it in a particular way. And if not, I know I'm going to get a phone call, and that's going to be a 15-minute to 20-minute conversation, or even a remote in for them to try and locate where that icon is. That's kind of where I leave as far as mine is, depending on that personal preference. I don't know. It's not my machine, but I'm going to leave it as is. But at least for the stuff I know they're not going to use, I'll go ahead and remove that.
Now here's what I tell people. I'm like, listen, if it's down in the taskbar, I said you only got a single click on it. If it's on your desktop, you got to double click on it. You know, sometimes that mouse doesn't work right, that touchpad, so it's actually easier to do it this way. Oh, okay, cool.
This is Jeff the Select Man here. So, you know what? And toolbars are the same way too. Like, you get rid of all. It's like, well, you have like 16 different toolbars here, so we're gonna start getting rid of them. And you start uninstalling them. Oh, don't get rid of my Yahoo toolbar. Okay, what do you use your Yahoo toolbar for? To search the internet. What else would you use the Yahoo toolbar for? Well, you know what? Here, let me show you something. Boo ba doo ba doo. Right? Oh, okay. Yahoo search engine. Perfect. Okay, type it in the address bar. Well, no, don't I have to put www in front of that? I don't want to have to do that. And it takes like 15 minutes to explain to them. You don't need a toolbar to do that anymore. We're not in Windows 98. Right? This isn't Windows 2000. This isn't Windows X. This is Windows 7. This is Windows 8. Guess what? We do things better now. You don't need all this extra crud on here that's going to take up all this memory. And they just lose it. I want to reinstalling it. Right? That's part of our normal virus removal process, and we'll get like less than 1%. It barely ever happens, but then you get somebody calling in and they're like, "Where's my toolbar?" And you have to put it back on because they're losing their mind because they don't have their toolbar.
It's funny because I had a customer, and I know, Chris, you know a little bit about this too, is that I had a customer that still uses AOL Mail, and I know we all still have a lot of them.
Yep.
And so they use the I think it was AOL. I think the last version was like 9.6 or 9.7, something like that. They haven't updated in a long time. So they download the program, and it's still the same old, "You've got mail," and you're like, going, "Are you? Doesn't that bother you like all day long? You've got mail."
It's not even an enhanced recording. It's like the exact same recording that they've been using since 1.0.
It's like, oh my gosh. So now this customer had a problem using that particular software. All of a sudden, attachments were coming as WinMail attachments for no reason whatsoever. So he couldn't get his attachments out of his email, which he does for his work. So what I did, I had to do a reinstall on his computer. There's a couple things you can do. One of the things we did was we hooked him up with Outlook so that he could get his attachments, and I was trying to move him over to that. Well, when I redid his computer, that particular version of Office that the other tech had put on there was not a legitimate version, so I couldn't put that on there without him spending more money. He didn't want to do that, whatever. So what I did was I made him tabs when he opens up Internet Explorer. And the second tab on his Internet Explorer is AOL.com. I'm like, here you log in. We click the little box. You stay logged in. I said, here's how we're going to do it now. I had to teach him because he's an older gentleman. I had to teach him, okay, here's how we're going to do it. You're going to go here. You click on here. If your information's not in here, your login information, you know what that is. Go ahead and put that in there. And then when you do that, it'll open up your email, and you can grab the attachments right from inside that email on the web page and drag them to your desktop or whatever, however you want to do it. And I showed him a couple different ways. Oh, he goes, well, that works. I said, well, yeah. I said, we don't want to use that other software because it's not working for you now. We have to move to something else. And so that's one of the things that I've done. It's frustrating because we haven't used these systems in years, so it's hard for us to realize that some people are comfortable with certain things, but as soon as I have an excuse to move them off of that, I absolutely will.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah, the last thing you want to do is get stuck supporting Lotus 123.
It's a funny story. My job actually was just moved off of 123 to Outlook just this year. So yeah, it was all bad. But
no.
All bad. And I actually, Jeff, you're right. I actually did the same thing for a client. She actually had AOL 10.1. And it was amazing about this story because we were trying to figure out, all right, 10.1, we're going to go ahead. It must be the newest one. We're going to re-download it. It kept shooting us back to 9.6 or 9.7. And I was losing my mind because I was like, no, there's no way. This is 10.1. As I go down the phone with AOL, they tell me that that's their original numbering schema, and 9.7 is their latest. Whatever. So I go ahead and install it from there. But keying off of that with the Outlook thing, has anybody used Mozilla Thunderbird to see about
Yes.
that? Oh, how is that? Is that any type of suggestion for that, or does it work?
I used it for a little while before I had already, purchased Outlook or Office, and I mean it was as good as Outlook Express.
Okay. Good.
Whatever that means to anybody, because I don't want to put opinions in people's faces, but I compare it to Outlook Express.
You know how I feel about open source, anyways, or Linux for that matter.
Oh, don't. Cut my face, Jeff.
Because apparently everybody thinks that I hate Linux, which I do not. I use a lot of open source software. It's just
you see how hard he said not
that I like, Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because I was just saying, like,
and
you said,
I do not
hate
Linux.
Anyways, yes, I don't hate Linux.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, no, I think I used Thunderbird a long time ago. It's been literally years. You probably maybe even a decade, to be honest with you. It's been that long. I really like what Outlook does, and Outlook works for me. I like the features. It's a little more full featured, even though I don't use all the features of Outlook. I appreciate it more. And nowadays, I'm telling you, with these subscription services, a lot of people think they're expensive, but I'm going to tell you, when people have kids in school and they've got a couple laptops and they've got a couple, maybe desktop computers at the house or whatever, to get an Office 365 for $99 a year for the residential version and put it on 5 machines and I believe 5 tablets or things of that nature, you can't go wrong.
It's 5 computers and 5 mobile devices.
Mobile devices. Okay, there you go. So I mean that's definitely the way to go with a lot of these things. Yes, there are free tools out there, and if Thunderbird works for you, that's fine. I'm sure it would work. Our biggest thing was, why was this AOL software changing this document from whatever the docx or whatever it was to a WinMail, or I think it was a Win.mail or something like that. And it's basically, it was showing it almost as a WinZip file for whatever reason. Don't know why. Not sure. If anybody can explain that, I'd be more than happy to listen. But anyways, we worked around the problem. We got it solved. We moved on. And it goes back to, you got to use whatever works for you at that given time.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's exactly what trying to key off of, because some people just don't want to spend that money. So the question is, what kind of solutions do you provide them in that aspect? Because like you said, I mean, Outlook, I ever since I switched over to them, especially now that I'm on Google Apps, and because I just flipped it on because I have the free account into Outlook, it's way better than using, and again, I'm not sure if they're a sponsor, etc.
No.
Using Outlook, it makes things a lot easier, like you mentioned. So being that the original email client for that, what it is, I try to steer them for that, especially with Office 365. But again, you have those ones that don't want to. So then where are you at from there? Their original solution didn't work. They don't want to go with a paid solution. Where do you go from there? So that's one of those where trying to get as far as that solution.
Well, you know what? So here, in today's day and age, I will tell you this, especially for residential customers, this is what I believe. Okay, a lot of times what I will steer people to, if you belong to Comcast, and everybody that belongs to Comcast or whatever ISP you have, they give you a free email address, and many people use those. I got hosed on that years ago, because Comcast said, yeah, you'll have access to your when I switch, you have access to your account for 90 days, blah, 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 whatever. A lot of times it stays longer than that. As soon as I cut my account, I could no longer send emails. Was I getting emails? Yeah, absolutely. So I got on a Gmail account way back when. And this is what I steer people towards. I'm like, listen, let's not get you a client on your computer, because here's what's going to happen. And here's what happens most of the time. I've had this happen with PST files and all kinds of stuff. you're working on a machine, PST file's corrupt, they never backed it up. It was never automatically backed up. Now it's like all the stuff that all the file folders and everything that they have in Outlook is gone. So what I tell a lot of people, I said, let's set up a Gmail account. I said, if you have access to Outlook, we can still use that and we can download it to your computer. But now if something happens, you can always go online to gmail.com and check your stuff, no matter on any computer. It doesn't matter as long as you got your login credentials. So a lot of times that's where I'll steer people is towards a Gmail account, or even nowadays, even to be honest with you, an Outlook account. You know, if you want it, what I've done in the past is I've taken a Gmail account and I'll take your Comcast account because a lot of people are still, they don't want to change or they don't want to use it. And what I'll do is I'll forward that into their Gmail account so they at least have an online backup of it. In that way, and even if they're using Outlook and their PST file gets corrupted, I'm like, once you have this set up, it's set up. You know, that's the beautiful thing about having like an Android phone. Here's the thing. I can log in. I can get a brand new phone today. I can log into my Gmail account, and my phone is set up and ready to use in a few minutes. Because all my stuff is backed up online. Yes, they do now. And that's the other thing is even if you wanted to use the Windows Live Mail on Windows 8 or Windows 7 and before, I don't know, I think it's just called Windows Mail on 8, but whatever. Any of those you can set up as an IMAP now, and then, but in the past, a lot of your ISPs, you actually had to call them and actually have them physically switch to an IMAP from POP3. And it was a huge pain. Now I've done some workarounds getting POP3 to work in the Windows 8 mail app, but it will not do anything but IMAP unless you do some trickery. And I don't recommend it because it's a big pain in the butt. Switch them over to IMAP, get it set up, and you're golden.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And for businesses, Exchange.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of benefits of having the online Exchange, and if you're running a business, you shouldn't be using a free email. That's my opinion on that. You know, every business should have their own domain. Every business should, even if you don't have a website, have a domain. Get yourself set up on an online Exchange. It's not that expensive to have, but it's so much better than using a public system.
Absolutely. You're talking about. Marvin says he's talking to Comcast about being a sponsor. Hey, I'm telling you, man, I'm drinking a Kool-Aid right now. 125 down and about 25 up. So I'm going.
Tell you what, if Comcast will pay all of us, we will tell everybody how Comcastic we are.
That's right. Absolutely. Oh man. So, anyways, now going back to, we've talked about a lot of things here, but going back to talking about, doing right things for the customer. Does anybody else? I have a story where I was doing a power jack repair, and I pulled it. I don't know if I told the story before, but I had taken the laptop apart. I was working on a motherboard. Well, in the past, if I've had this is bad to say, a power jack that was, it took a little bit to get it out. I had to put a little bit too much heat on it, and I had some of the little diodes and things that were close to the power jack. Well, this one was right on the edge. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a pair of tin snips and just kind of cut it a little bit, and so that I can pull one side of the pins out and pull the other side of the pins out as I'm heating it up. I can pull with some pressure. What ended up happening was when I went to clip it with my tin snips, the PCB board started to bend.
Oh.
And I was about freaking out. I'm like because if I break that, I've got to replace the motherboard now, and I'm gonna have to eat the cost on that, $50, $60, $70, $80, whatever it was. So, and I'm thinking in my head, I go, if I can't do this without breaking this, or I crack it, or whatever, I said, what am I'm going to have to do the right thing by the customer and take care of, buy whatever I need to buy. And it ended up working out. It did spread a little bit. I was able to get the power jack out after heating it up a little bit more, and it went back, put the other power jack in. Everything worked perfectly fine. There was no cracks or anything like that. I'm surprised how resilient that PCB board is and how it flexes, but it was pretty amazing. But yeah, so that's, we've all done those things where we're like, just at the moment you're doing something, you go, I ought not to have done that. So, does anybody else have any other stories of things that they've done that they've had to basically eat crow on, or take care of the customer?
There was one where it was a laptop. Originally, they came in. Says it turns on after 5 seconds, turns back off. All right, it's an overheating issue. Original assumption. So as I take it apart, I went ahead. I looked at it, saw the fan wasn't spinning. I was like, all right, it's gonna need a new CPU fan. Let probably grate the heatsink, etc. Somehow, so basically, what ended up happening was ordered the part. It took like 2 weeks to get here because of some delay through the vendor. Got it in, replaced it, put everything together. But as I took everything apart, and the first part was I took off the battery, put it to the side, and I looked at as I took off the top bezel piece, I noticed that the pins for where it connects to the battery was bent. So as I look at it, and I'm looking at it, and I look at the battery, the plastic pieces that are covered was broken, and it exposed one of the metal prongs inside of the battery to the motherboard. So as I'm pretty much putting everything together, I'm looking at this thing, and I already told this guy it was a CPU fan. He waited 2 weeks. And he really needed this computer back. I just determined this is a motherboard issue. So just to play, for SAKs, I went ahead and put everything back together, turned it on with the new CPU fan, put new coolant on, make sure everything was good to go, turned it on. It stayed on for a couple minutes, but went right back off. So as I looked at it, and it did the same thing. Motherboard was shorted. And that basically was to the point where he had to replace that. The kicker on the whole part was because of this motherboard, it was he purchased it overseas. So to get that board was going to take another 2 weeks. So it was to the point where he already waited that long. It wasn't my fault, but in his eyes, I had this thing for so long and I still didn't fix it. So this is one of those opportunities where you basically said, hey, look, I don't know if you want to purchase another new laptop, replace the board, or just so in case you do decide to purchase a new one outside of us, we can convert your hard drive into a USB drive, external USB drive for $35. So that way you don't have to worry about transferring your data over or how you're going to transfer your data over. So he went with that option. I ate crow on the other I forgot how much remainder of what he paid because normally I invoice for I give him the diagnosis, I invoice. Once it's paid, then we repair it, go back from there. They have a 14-day warranty. Once I determined that, basically I went ahead, saw that 35, refunded him the rest of the money that he previously purchased. Everything was fine. But that was one of those situations where because of a shipper and the bag, and then looking at that, I had to eat crow on that price for that specific job.
That's interesting. I'm hearing a lot of people nowadays are saying that they're actually. I was just talking to somebody, a tech earlier. They're saying that they're invoicing before they start the work, and I guess I understand why they're doing it. I'm a little old school in that, and I'm basically, I'm just giving them a diagnostic, telling them what's wrong, telling them how much it's going to cost. People offer to, do I need to pay you any money now? And I've always just said no. It's fine. I'll order the part, put it back together, and when you come pick it up, you can, we'll take care of it then. So, I mean, have you found that that's working better for you? Because I'm hearing a lot of times that if a mistake is made, then you got to refund money, and that seems like it could be kind of a headache too. So I'm looking at different scenarios.
No, and that's a perfectly good question. I actually used to do the work and they get paid. But what ended up happening was I had several incidents where, perfect example, we were running an Amazon deal through Amazon Local. Person came in for a virus removal. Turns out that it was the computer kept freezing. We did the scans, determined that it was the motherboard was bad. Quoted her the motherboard, everything. It was like $300. But because she purchased the Amazon deal, I assumed, all right, in good faith, I'm gonna go ahead and do this entire repair. You pay us at the end. So at the end, we got it all done. Everything was good to go. Had it at the office. She paid by check. Check bounced. So I was out to $300. Had the collection agents, collections go ahead, whatever. Never saw the money again. Another situation happened as well where there was a virus removal that we did on, I believe it was on site, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't take a deposit. We went there. We did the work. She paid us by credit card. I think several days later it was disputed, and it was a disputed charge. It came across. Then there was a whole mess of that whole situation. Because of those two burns that I had, I prefer how I do it is I'll go ahead and take the payments up front, and I don't use that money. It stays in the account. And if anything does happen, I will then go ahead and if it needs to get refunded or whatever, once the job's done, I wait that 7 day for the warranty. Once it's good to go, it pretty much leave it from there.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. Chris, your opinion?
I always take payment first.
Okay.
Always, always, always. Especially since we do remote support, right? So it's so easy for somebody to just say, "Oh, it's fixed. Okay, great." Click, and then just never answer the phone again.
No, that makes perfect. Yeah,
Right?
on remote support, absolutely. You have to do that. But even on a hardware fix or something like that you're going to, somebody or they're bringing it to you or whatever. What did you do back in the day?
Well, I usually took a minimum deposit to cover parts. So mine was $60 for the bench fee.
Okay.
Which now, if I were to do it now, I would do $89 for the bench fee because I'm not going to do a repair that's under $89 anyway. And then just tell them, hey, okay, now this fee is going to go towards the final bill. Do the final bill, take the payment. I've got your computer until you pay. And here, if they don't pay, I don't have to give them back their computer. So, I mean, pick one because I can refurb this thing and send it out if I have to.
Well, and that's what I've always done. If I have your computer, and I'll give you a prime example. Back when I first started, a guy wanted a screen repair, so I ordered the screen. He had a nice laptop. It was a nice HP laptop. Basically, he didn't have the money, and so I had ordered the screen. I had put it back together, and hey, it's going to be this much. I don't have the money. I don't have the money. Okay, well, let me know when you do. And I actually, in this case, because I didn't have anything in my contract stating how long before I took ownership of the thing that was left there, it wasn't paid for. I basically waited like 6 months. And then I texted him. It just the guy just never had any money, and he was like going, you know what? I said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna have to turn this around, and I'm gonna have to sell it, and go from there. And he texted me back and said, yeah, go do what you got to do. He goes, that's fine. He goes, I just don't have the money. I can't do it. So, in those instances where you have something that's worth more than what even the repair that you did on it, I guess I've always felt a little bit safer with that. But yeah, anything you're doing remotely, you definitely need to collect up front. And I'm even seeing, what Paco was talking about as far as getting that payment up front and taking care of it and just kind of holding on to it. I do like that scenario too.
Yeah. Although I do have to mention, though, that most credit card processing companies will allow you to do a pre-authorization. So rather than actual capturing the funds, you can put in a pre-authorization for how much you think the repair is going to be and then finish the charge after. That way you don't have to deal with a refund if you don't wind up actually doing the repair, but you still know that the money's there for when you go to capture it.
Well, what types of services will do that where you can do a pre-authorization?
Most of them. Stripe does it, so does PayPal. Actually, I can't think of a single one that doesn't other than Square. I think Square is the only one that I know of that doesn't do a pre-authorization on a card.
Yeah, because I can't. I use Square for my, when people come to me or I go to them, physically. But yeah, okay. So anything else that you're taking a payment for, like with a Stripe or a PayPal or whatever, you can do a pre-authorization on there. Okay, that's good to know. That's actually a good tip for people. And hey Paco. So we're talking about just the repair, kind of taking payments up front or kind of holding on and not taking the payments until after the job's done. And I see some people in the chat room says, if you're getting hardware and stuff like that, a lot of times they'll take money up front. And I think Chris, you said you took a partial hardware payment up front to make sure that at least the things were covered. So which makes sense.
Which is pretty standard too. Like a lot of places will take a bench fee, right? Where they'll, $40, $60, you have to pay this for us to even look at it, and then we'll put that towards your repair at the end. So, it's not an uncommon practice, and it makes sure that you're getting paid for your time, even if these people decide, oh, this is how much it's going to cost. Oh, well, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to buy a new one. Okay, well, at least my time's paid for.
Right, exactly. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, I think it comes down to you want to do right by the customer, and you want to make sure that you're not holding the bag, and you're not getting abused in not getting that money. And all right. And so with those things, I think it's just one of those things that, these are good business practices, and I think it's one of the things that sometimes people learn the hard way, and they'll do things that they go, hey, this didn't work out well for me, so now I'm going to change my process and do what I need to do, so that I'm not, I'm not out. Nobody wants to be out any money when we're doing this stuff. So we want to protect ourselves the best we can, and also protect
for
the
sure.
customer. Now, I've never had it's
yeah,
funny.
and I mean,
go ahead. I was going to say I've never had a check returned on me. So, but and probably 50% of my clients give me a check, which is weird.
I have. I've had people flat out refuse to pay after, right? So it's, and I mean on-site jobs, when I go out, I do the job, and then it's like, okay, here's the full invoice, and they're like, and rip it up in front of you, So like, that only ever happened once, and it was heartbreaking. But you learn, right?
Sure.
I was a brand new tech in my brand new car, driving down, doing jobs for people. It was great. I felt on top of the world, and then it's like, oh, that's $120. No, it's just like, I'm never gonna let that happen again.
Right.
So you got to protect yourself, and as long as you're not being ridiculous about it, people aren't going to not pay. And the people who say, no, I'm not paying you a $40 deposit, are the people who are going to argue with you about the bill at the end anyway. So it's not worth your time to take that customer. Send them down the street down to, Discounts R Us, and let them deal with them, because I don't want to have that customer.
Well, exactly, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to, having the right customers, having the right customers for your business. And, I think that's one of the things that I've learned is I've raised my rates. I never really, even with, I've had people balk at prices at the lower end, I guess, but I guess when I've raised my rates, I've never had anybody. It's always, how much, and a lot of times it's still, that's it? That's all you're charging me? And, so you still know that you're probably even below market value. So that's one of those things that's, it's I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to, learn. It's hard to learn the hard way, but sometimes that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
So, all right. It looks like we lost Paco, I think.
Are you still there? He's shifty-eyeing.
I don't have Paco. You still there?
He's got no audio.
Oh, okay. He must have lost that. Might have been. I heard a phone call come in, so he might have lost audio there. Oh, there you go. He's back.
He's muted.
Yep.
The almighty mute button. Yeah. That's funny.
It's the bane of our existence, that mute button.
So is there any other things that you guys wanted to bring up, pertaining to any issue today? I see that we've had no phone calls or anything come in today as of yet. So if anybody wants to ask any questions out there or whatever, feel free to call in. The number is at the bottom of the screen. Paco, you got anything that anything else that you wanted to talk about, or anything that comes to mind?
Nothing really to come up other than kind of like what Chris was saying, as far as when when you're that brand new tech and worrying about getting that payment, and once you've been burned, and kind of preparing yourself for the next one on a new ventures. Like, perfect example, my company just started offering remote support during actually peak hours for people to call in and get their virus removals, etc. So the worry on that part of me doing it myself was, if we did that work and didn't take the payment up front, once it's done, do they just hang up, disconnect the connection, and that's it? You're gone. You're off you're out the whatever you did. So thankfully, with the process that we have in place and a lot of great people there, kind of help steer us on what would be that right process to do that.
That's good. Hey, Chris, I know you said you had to you got to cut out on time today, and that's fine. Just let me know, if you got to go. That's cool. But before you do go, I would like to ask, talking about remote support, like Paco was talking about, taking the payments and stuff up front. Is this something that you learned on your own, or did you learn from somebody else, or did you read some some stuff on how to do this properly without making many mistakes, or you just kind of went out there and just did what you needed to do and made a bunch of mistakes?
Well, Jeff, as we said at the beginning of this show, I don't make mistakes.
I'm sorry. Yes, Mr.
No, I actually, to be honest with you, very first thing that I did is I bought Lisa's remote support book from Call That Girl, and I started doing remote support for my own clients at the time. So I did have some trial and error there, not nearly at the level that I have now. Obviously, we've learned a lot in the last year since we started on where we need to be as a company, where our clients need to be as companies, bringing in these clients. And what I've found is that it's never a good idea to do any work before taking at least a pre-authorization on a card or a payment. Prepaid tickets are a great way to make money because then people keep calling more often, and just keep up on trends. Like crypto wall right now, and I know that a lot of the technicians that I talk to are like, "Oh, crypto wall, that's not that big of a deal right now." I've had 3 this week.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of them was on a client station that had QuickBooks on it. It encrypted their QuickBooks and their email, and their last backup that wasn't connected to that computer was from April.
Mm.
So, they have to, what is that, like 7 months
Yeah.
worth of transactions that they're going to have to manually enter
Right.
because they got crypto wall, and crypto wall killed their QuickBooks and their backups. So, keep up on stuff like that because, I don't, I'm not really wanting to say that we're in the money in the business to make misfortune off of other people's money or something like that. I screwed that up.
I knew what you meant, though.
Yeah, but we're not here to make money just because people are having a hard time. But at the same time, we need to be proactive about this stuff and go on sales mode. Everybody should have some sort of good antivirus. Check every single computer, make sure they have antivirus. Check every single computer, make sure they have crypto prevent. Go through all of those steps, because if you don't, you're going to get that phone call and a really upset customer because they have all this work ahead of them now, when you could have made just as much money months ago off of them and help protect them so that they didn't have to deal with it. So that's what I've taken away from the last year is you got to really push sales because it benefits both of you.
And I think that's one of the things where we've talked about in the past of making your customers aware of all the different things that you can protect them with, all the different things you can provide for them. And if you don't do that, then you're doing them a disservice. And if they still don't want to, take whatever you're selling, then at the end of the day, you've done what you can to protect them, and they end up losing everything, or you've got to go back 7 months to your information and try to rebuild it back up. Then you go, this is why I wanted to not taking advantage of their misfortune, but this is why I wanted to help you to avoid these things. So. All right, hey Chris, so you got to go there. So, yep, it was good having you. Hey, if you want to, go ahead and plug yourself for what you do, and then you can take off there.
Sure, thanks, Jeff. So yeah, I'm Chris from Remote Support Tech Team. We do white label IT support for computer repair businesses. You can reach me by email at info@rstechteam.com. You can go to our website, www.rstechteam.com, or you can catch us on TechNibble at Carrcomp, CARRCOMP.
Very cool. Well, thanks for being here today, Chris. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Have a great day.
Right. You too. All right, bye. All right, so there's just 2 of us left.
Yep.
So, all right. So, so we've talked about, again, it's one of those things where you want to do right by the customer and, and do your business. Now, are there anything in your business, Paco, that's been unique as of lately, or, anything that any new things you're dealing with?
As far as unique or new, just like Chris was mentioning, crypto wall is starting to really prop up on a lot of customers' machines, and it's really on some of the simple stuff, right? So it's like now they're starting to get it from all these website ads, Yahoo, AOL, etc. The normal users that haven't upgraded or come with the times, and they're still using that same old technology, or not old technology, but the same original sites that they've been using since for so many years. Obviously these hackers are making quite a bit of money through these rootkits and infecting these ad spaces that these companies are selling. So right now, what we're doing is we are trying to move toward a um, if we can get them beforehand, we'll start moving them toward a managed service plan along with a online backup. And that way, at least we have that portion of it done. And then we can talk to them about seeded backups and things of that nature. That's actually what I'm going to start working towards soon. Is because you actually made a good point, I think, in a couple podcasts, is you can't solely just concentrate on cloud. Although they do have the redundancies, they do have everything of that. The amount of time it takes for them to restore back to their original process could take who knows how long, depending on the data that they have. So the seeded backups is going to be one of our big portions of this backup solution, along with the MSP for monitoring and making sure that they have that they're protected. That seeded backup, we think, is going to be a very big key for them. So hey, you want to be down for 2 weeks, or do you want to go ahead and be down for 12 hours? Here's your differences, here's your price differences, and this is the reason why.
Well, and I'm almost surprised because I understand exactly where Chris was coming from when we were talking about that. And one of the things I've always looked at cloud backup. Now, this is just me, but the way I've looked at cloud backup is that that's my second line of defense. My first line of defense is basically it's a local backup because it's quick, it's easy, it's here. I have it automatically done once a week. It's not something I do every day because I don't change my files that much every day to where I couldn't get things back. But I want to have that online. I want to have that backup that's here, so I can basically swap drives, or at least pull the information that I need, or whatever. The only reason I have an online backup is for basically my house blowing up, a tornado coming through, wiping all my stuff out, a power surge that fries everything, that type of thing. That's the reason that I have even a power surge at this point, because I've got external drives that are offline. Wouldn't really matter to me. So it's really natural disaster is really the only reason I have online backup. I will never use that as a first line of defense. That's just not. It's not me. But that's my determination I've made in my head. But as far as CryptoWall, I haven't come across that yet. So if you want to explain. With what you've been dealing, everybody knows what CryptoLocker is. Basically, encrypts your files, and basically they ransom you for whatever $300 to $500, and I think you have to get it in Bitcoin now, and you got to go through this long process where you got to go to the bank, get the Bitcoin, you got to take pictures of you exchanging the Bitcoin. I mean, it's this long process. It just sucks. Now, what's the difference with CryptoWall?
So it's kind of the same thing. It's just another rendition of CryptoLocker. The only difference is now they've gotten a lot more clever on, as we mentioned, they're now infecting sites such as Yahoo, AOL, typical just regular sites, or just whatever streaming sites, etc. And it's in the advertisements. They're purchasing this real estate, and they're infecting it with some type of rootkit, and by them clicking off on the wrong end, so logging in, and they click that big app or etc., and they're starting to get themselves infected. At least with the client or the call, because I use the answering service I use is picking up the phone calls, and that's basically what's occurring. And what's happening is, like you mentioned, CryptoWall actually upped the ante for the ransom, where they actually want $500 up front for 24 hours. If you don't give it to them in 24 hours, they want $1,000. And that's in Bitcoin, like you mentioned. But I've heard, and again, I could be wrong, but I've heard now that with CryptoWall, even if you do pay that money, they don't give you the key. So they're not doing like what CryptoLocker was. You pay, they give you the key, everybody's happy. Or, well, they're more happy than us. But CryptoWall, from my understanding, is you are unsuccessful even if you do pay that money to get that key to encrypt your files.
Well, and it's surprising that people don't know that, because the reality is, if you think of what happened with CryptoLocker, their servers got seized, and that's how they actually found the guys that were doing it. So they seized all these servers. So nobody in their right mind is going to have servers out there with encryption keys that they're going to share to unlock your stuff anymore.
Right.
They're not going to jail. So this is basically old style ransomware. Pay us money and we do nothing for you.
Pretty much.
But thank you very much. And again, I love my $10 billion a year industry where I can just buy a little $50 program from Russia and write my own code, add to it, and create my own crypto wall or whatever I want. And you know what? There's enough people out there that will think it's legit that they'll pay for it. How many people do you get that get these things where it goes, hey, your computer's infected with 300 viruses right now. Pay us $75 and we'll clean it off. You know?
And they pay it.
They do all the time, and I have to tell them. I said, well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I said, but you've just been scammed.
Yep.
I said, you paid that money. It does nothing for you. Now you got to pay me another $89 to clean it up for you.
Yep, perfect example. Yesterday was on site for a client. He's like, yeah, I got the one. What did he say? The One Life Care. I said, what? One Life Care? I've never heard of One Life Care. Pull it up. When you've been doing this for so long, you know what a bogus antivirus looks like. Oh, yeah. So I hadn't seen this one particularly, but I knew the moment I opened it up. He's like, yeah, I've been renewing with them every 6 months for 75, or I think like it was like $75. I said, you're renewing every 6 months? How long has this been? Oh, about a year and a half. Let me tell you, my friend, you got a situation here. And as I explained it to him, he said, well, how do I get that money back? I was like, you're kind of hosed. I mean, there's no contact number here. Have you ever taken a look to see if they have a support link? He's like, oh yeah, you're right. So had to clear it out. And what ended up happening was it broke his network. He couldn't connect to his Wi-Fi.
Right, and that's what again, here's the reason. A lot of people don't understand this, but this code normally is written so poorly that it ends up breaking Windows functions.
Yep.
And so when it does that, that's when people bring it to us. It's not until that point where all of a sudden I can't get online, whether my Wi-Fi is not working or whether my Internet Explorer is not working or whatever. I had a customer that same thing, except he paid $425 and they downloaded and installed some WinZip cleaners. Oh. I guess WinZip's got some free cleaners and stuff out there that you can put on there for free. That's what they installed in his system. And he's like, he figured since it was WinZip, they were a legitimate company, but they were just they weren't, So now, fortunately, what I told him to do is I said, because it happened immediately, he called me. I said, listen, you need to go file a police report. I said, and fortunately, there was a support number. Now, he was able to call and actually get the charges reversed, I guess.
Okay.
So that worked out good for him, but you're right. Normally, that's not the case.
Right.
You're pretty much you're stuck.
Yeah, I didn't bring that up to him. I probably will give him a call later today and let him know, hey, you might want to create a police report and see if you can get those charges reversed.
Yeah. So and at least it's on record. So if something comes back, you're kind of protected, and maybe there's nothing the police department can do, but you never know. So
right. Well, at least he has that to present to the bank, and hopefully they'll hear the story. So
exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of things out there that are it's people's miseries that unfortunately keep us in business, and it's all these nefarious things that go on. But I think it really comes back to take care of your customer, do the best you can by them, and make sure that you give them all the options to protect themselves, so that when something devastating like this does happen, you've got something in place that's protecting them, and you can go, hey, you know what? No big deal. We're going to wipe your system. We're going to reload it. We got your data backed up right here. And and the problem is trying to find that, between price, functionality, having the user do it, which most of them are having some automated system, or even better, like Chris says, have a monitored backup system that's going to make sure that your backups are being done properly and being done right, so that if you ever have these situations, you are well taken care of.
Yep.
So, all right, well, I'll tell you what, we've gone a little bit over an hour, I think. So I think we've had a good full show with a lot of good information, and yeah, again, take care of your customer, and you'll be in business for a long time. If you don't, it's one of those things. What do they say? If you do a good job, that customer will tell a couple people. If you do a bad job, they'll tell 20.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, right, exactly. It takes that one bad review to mess up the other 5, 6 good ones that you had and cause that doubt for any potential. So treat your customer right, and they're going to treat you right. So
exactly,
I believe.
Well, I appreciate you coming out on the show. And if people want to reach you, what's the best way to do that?
They can email me at paco@prodigytex.com, or they can hit me at Twitter, and my handle is ChyTechCEO, and that's CHITEKCEO.
All right, very cool. All right, well, I'll tell you what, you guys can find me over on the Google Plus at Jeffery Halash or Twitter at TechNutPC. And you can leave a voicemail on this. Our call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the air, and you get some either question answered or your opinion on something. And if you guys are a computer repair tech and would like to be a guest on Podnutz Daily, email me at podnutzdaily@podnutz.com. And if you'd like to feature your product or service on this show, email me at podnutz@podnutz.com. We can, if you have a product or service for the computer repair field, we will showcase it on this show so that you can, let other techs know about it so they can, try your service. That's what a lot of these guys have done in the past. And just feel free to email me. You guys can also help support the Podnutz Network. The next time you're shopping at Amazon, go to podnutz.com/Amazon. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. All right. We'll stop that recording. Well, thank you, sir, for coming out and sharing. It's been fun.
No problem. No problem. It's always a pleasure.
And then I did get your. We're still on the air, just so you know. But
yep.
Kind of, we might hang out for a few minutes if you got a couple minutes. I did get your email for doing a Podnutz Daily. So.
Yep.
I will definitely give you. I can't remember exactly what it said, but I'll send you an email back. So.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, I got the both of them this morning, so I figured I'll let you know. Because I was making sure that, I saw the two of them, and I was like,
Yeah, and so let me explain this for whoever's paying attention to the show or listening right now. I'm probably gonna have to explain this on both shows, I think, in the future. Podnutz Daily is basically a show where I talk to other computer repair techs about their business, about business practices, what they do. This show is twofold. It's more of a roundtable once a week, a live call-in show where techs can call in and get questions answered and stuff like that. And then two, it's for computer repair businesses that have products and services for the computer repair field to come on and show what types of services they have to help out the computer repair techs. Things like Ninite. Things like Instant House Call, M-Help Desk, any of these types of businesses that could potentially help a computer repair tech. We want to come and showcase them on the show and give them some basically free advertisement to show what to be able to talk about what their product or service is. Because I'll be honest with you, a lot of you might be able to surf the internet and check out new things all day long, and I'm so busy I can't. So, but guess what? When I'm driving in the car or I'm at work or doing whatever, I can plug in a set of headphones and or earbuds and listen to podcasts all the time and learn about new products and services, learn about new ways to do things, and so that's always helped me.
Yeah. Absolutely, and just so everyone knows, I started with the community probably anywhere from probably about 3 to 4 months ago, and I can honestly say, and I happened to find the Podnutz Network. I started listening, and I have become a better technician from listening of those 3 to 4 months than the previous 15 years that I've been doing this in this business. So it really helps you. And again, sometimes you're just that busy and you don't have the opportunity to keep yourself up to date with what's going on nowadays. And with this community, and especially with the new podcasts coming around on Podnutz, there is always an avenue for someone to learn something. And no matter if you've been a brand new tech or you've been doing this for so long, you will always learn something new or to become just that more efficient to help make you more money and give you a little bit more time so you can enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree, and that's one of the reasons I kind of started doing this show earlier this year. So, I think it's something that's needed, and I don't think there's a whole lot of stuff out there. There's a couple other good shows. You got the Mike Tech Show. You got you got Tech Vets, and and I'm still always amazed at Mike because he can carry a show no problem all by himself. And then when him and Kerry get on there, they'll go. They have a great dynamic, a great back and forth. a great situation where that you can definitely learn. And there's a ton of stuff that Mike deals with on a daily basis in his consulting business that has helped me. And I'm like going, oh wow, if I'd never heard his podcast, I would have never known that information. So, it was easy. Oh, yeah, okay. So he said something, and that helped me out, and let me go back and research that a little bit, and sure enough, and that's really what we try to do on these shows is, I don't know everything, and, because of that, I just try to do what's right and try to help people, and I've been helped by other people in this industry that, just save me a bunch of time and effort on, searching it out myself. Because a lot of times we feel like we're an island on ourselves, or island by ourselves, or on an island somewhere, I don't know, in the Bahamas. Well, that wouldn't be too bad, but you know what I mean.
No, and then speaking on that, I think he actually had one, not his latest one, where he was by himself, and exactly what you said, he gave it was a little short one, 20 minutes or 20-30 minutes, but to the point of what he said, it was like, I didn't even think about that, and it was something as simple of, hey, you're doing some consulting, and there should be a consultation fee, and if they decide to go away from you, they better not how to protect yourself for the amount of time you've invested. So,
Sure.
and that was a really good podcast from listening to that one just lately.
Well, very good. I'm glad it's helping somebody out there, and hopefully it's helping a lot of people. K Wisher, have you heard of the Tron automated cleanup script? No, I have not. Of course, there's like a 30-second delay here, so. No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Familiar with what that is? Tron automated.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that one. If they're asking you for money, don't do it.
Automated cleanup script. Huh, they're very interesting. Yeah, so I guess we could have talked about this earlier, but how's business in the Chicago area? Still keeping busy?
Yeah, it's good. We're getting a lot more hardware repairs than on-site virus removals as we would like. We want to do more of the on-site and so forth, so that way I don't have to rush to each individual office to go pick them up and repair them, send them back. So, but no, it's been getting good. Amazon has really helped us out on our Amazon local stuff. We did one in Evanston, and it brought us a lot of traffic, so we were thinking about doing another one in Schaumburg, which is our latest location we just opened up. And from that, we're starting to do hosted exchange migrations. So we just started doing that recently, and it's becoming a very good source of revenue for us. So.
Oh, very cool. All right, I'm checking out the Tron version 3.5.0. DISM corruption repair auto TDSS killer. Yeah, okay. Very cool. No, yeah, that looks like a cool product. I use D7 pretty much exclusively right now, and it does pretty much all these same types of things. But this is definitely a good freeware tool out there that you can use. Tron, like there's no, I wonder there's no IP with that Tron. Gee, I don't want to get sued. Right. Yeah, I'm going to use the name Tron. Okay.
Right.
But no, it looks great. Looks like it's got a lot of cool stuff in it.
Yeah, I looked at some of the details. Looks like, but like you said, I use D7 a lot too. So I mean, that's because I was weighing on some solutions, but that's what we ended up going with. So we normally just use all their products.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can try to get a hold of him. I'll see. Yeah, a lot of times, I know people ask me all the time, hey, see if you can get a hold of so and so, and quite honestly, I mean, I do when I have the time to send emails and stuff out. I try to, but a lot of times, busy with family and life and all that kind of stuff. So if anybody has anybody that they think would be a great fit for the show, I would say, go ahead and contact them and, have them get in contact with me. It's a lot of times it's easier to get that going. and then you can kind of get some a little bit of kudos for kind of helping out a little bit and bringing those people to the show. So yeah, I I try to do the best I can and keep up with what I can keep up with, but doing 3 different shows on the network and family and work and all that kind of stuff, I'm a pretty busy dude.
It gets tasking. So
exactly.
Did you ever do that interview with Repair Shopper on? Because I know you said you were going to have an upcoming show with them, but.
Yeah, I'm going to do, so because I was having internet problems, I couldn't get back with these guys. What I'm going to do is I am going to do a live show, and basically, I'm going to stream it live. I don't expect people to watch it because it'll probably be during the day, but it's going to be a recorded show that's going to show walking through Repair Shopper from getting the customer, putting their information in, different things you can do. They've got a couple things that I'm going to add to my website as far as how you can log in. Use my sign my contract right there on my website, type thing.
Really?
So yeah, there's some really cool things that I'm still learning, and so I want these guys to do a walkthrough with me,
right,
and kind of show me some of the things that maybe I'm missing and not using properly. But Repair Shopper is still my go-to all-in-one management tool. Other than, excuse me, the only thing I haven't hooked up to it yet is like a QuickBooks. Okay. I'm still doing. Oh, excuse me. I'm still doing like a Excel spreadsheet type thing, and I look in that all the time. And here's what happens. I look in and I go, oh, I forgot this. I forgot that. I forgot this. And there's a lot of things that if I would just do it through Repair Shopper and hook Quicken up to it, or QuickBooks, I mean, either the online version or the offline version, either one, it would put that stuff in there automatically. Yeah. But it's one of those things that you have to learn something new, and it's so hard sometimes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Actually, from talking to you, I actually, because I was previously on M Help Desk, and then I actually migrated the company over to Repair Shopper last month. Okay. Something like that. And then talking with someone else, the integrations with it, and we use Wave Apps. For our accounting software. It's a free web-based accounting software that Google endorsed. So we started using that for about the past 2 years. But again, there's no API integration to Repair Shopper. So it was one of those decisions of, do I enroll in QuickBooks, import all the information in there to have it put in Repair Shopper, or do I just do everything directly out of Repair Shopper? So that's kind of where we're at with our decision on trying to figure out what we're going to do with that. But it being that it integrates with D7, it works out even better. So.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I'm probably going to look at it at the beginning of the year. That's when but right now I've got all my information, and it's still the same Excel spreadsheet that's in the TechNibble Computer Business Kit. It's the same one I'm using. I made some minor changes to it, so it would add and subtract certain columns. So I could have parts that were paid out and parts that were or things that were paid in, and then parts minus it off of that, so I can see what my revenue is for the year. But
gotcha.
That's one of the things. Yeah, I hate them or love them, doesn't matter. QuickBooks is probably going to be pretty much the only game in town to be able to do what we need to do, I think. I'm hoping, but it's just I don't know how much of a learning curve it's going to be.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of wanted, because we have a CPA right now reconciling our books, because once we do that, then we'll probably end up making the jump over to QuickBooks. Because like you said, I mean, that's the only accounting software right now, other than I think Xero. I'm not sure if that's up to that par, but that basically integrate with every other system. There's not really, like you mentioned, they're probably the biggest ones in town to allow for that type of integration, or somebody to go to them for that type of integration.
Well, and partially to me, it's part of ease of use. So what I'm understanding is the online version is actually a simplified version of the more expanded version. So my thought process is, if it's easier to use, then I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to use the online version because I just need it for basic accounting. I don't really need it to do invoices, because that's what I have Repair Shopper for. I don't need it to do, paychecks, because that's, if I was going to do that, I mean, I would use something else anyways. One man shop, I'm not going to do it, but
Right.
that's what I'm kind of looking at. Is if it's easier to use and I can set it up fairly quickly, and I might have to pay somebody to help walk me through that process. It might be I know Chris is doing his premium services with QuickBooks advisory or advisor, that type of thing. So I might have to pay him to, hey, walk me through, help me set this process up, and get me going. Once I have a base to start from, then I can just kind of go from there.
Gotcha.
So, all right. Well, it is 5:30, so I think I'm gonna end the broadcast, and we will see you guys all next week. Make sure send us some voicemails, emails, and make sure to call in, and we'll get you on the air. All right. Talk to everybody later. Bye.